is Tuesday, April 28th. I am Geoff Schwartz. That is Mitch Schwartz, and we're back. The power of the Schwartz. We're workshopping that, Mitch, as far as the title for this show. We're here for a draft recap. We're going to talk about what we saw on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We're going to break this down kind of award show style. We're going to have different categories here so you can try to hit potentially and possibly all your favorite teams, the good, the bad, the indifferent. Mitch, how did you enjoy the draft? How'd you take it in?
I love watching the draft. I still watch ESPN. It's, a little bit nostalgic, even though some of the analysis is a little bit lacking, and we'll get into the coverage a little bit later. But I grew up watching the draft on ESPN, and there's a familiarity there. So I watched it on TV like everybody else. I kind of try to stay off social media a little bit. I like to watch it and be surprised by the picks. I think the first few picks were pretty riveting once you got past Mendoza. But no, man, I enjoy it. I watch a little bit a day. Two, I can't say I watched any of day three. I was out golfing and driving back from a pretty cool course, but no, it's the draft's a fun time of year. There's kind of hope springs eternal, and everyone gets excited, and you kind of dream on what it can do for your team.
I tell people I'm pretty well versed in the top 75 picks. I have a general idea of who they are. Round 4, Jermon McCoy, obviously we know who he is, but you're stretching in. Pick 241. I look every year. Pick 241. Reed Adams, a guard from Texas A&M. That's my slot. So congratulations to you, buddy. You have a long career ahead of you. Mitch, your pick this year was what? You were 38 or 39?
37.
37.
Hey,
Colton Hood to the Giants, a cornerback out of Tennessee.
Yeah, why didn't I get a really cool customized dance with Roger Goodell? I should have had the power of the Schwartz, some sort of thing to do with Goodell, but no, I was not invited to the draft, as you can imagine.
I know. I feel like though would you have accepted that though back then? Probably not though, right?
Me and my exact circumstances, no. I would have thought that I would be embarrassed sitting there till the third round. So no, definitely not. I do appreciate. Dude, I always say if I had some of the confidence of these guys, I'd be a Hall of Famer. If I just loved myself and trusted myself and knew that I was really good at football, I would have had such an amazing career, because it just would have been yeah, I'm just not worried about anything.
My favorite thing during Mitch's career to do, by the way, was, and you touched on it there a little bit, the sort of anxiety about being perfect, right? The perfectionist. And I tried to always sort of, just cut a joke here and there for Mitch, but he would text me after a bad game or something. And again, Mitch's bad game was he gave up 2 pressures, just crestfallen, a heartbroken. If I give up 2 pressure in a game, sign me up. I am signing up for that game. And I'd always text Mitch. I'd ask him if the check cleared. I'm did the check clear this week, man? I know it's a stressful game, but I always try to keep it a little bit loose. And yeah, you're right. Some of these guys, the confidence these guys have, and we got guys up on the stage telling, everyone they die for their quarterback. I cannot imagine you saying that.
That was ridiculous. I gotta be honest, bro, you gotta chill, man. I appreciate the sentiment. I love that you're there to protect your guy, but sorry, Pat. I'm gonna keep my life.
Okay.
I would have kept going if I was willing to risk a third back surgery, but I'm not. And it's just football is extremely important. Making sure that guy is upright and healthy is one of the most important things in your life. But
I know
the hyperbole was a little bit rampant this year.
No third back surgery for you. All right, let's get to our best in show. Essentially, we're going to break down a lot of day 1, a little bit of day 2 and 3 here at the end. Our favorite pick of day 1, obviously 32 picks in the first round. Mitch, do you have a favorite pick in day 1?
I actually really like the Keelan Rutledge pick for the Texans. We've been talking about their offensive line for the last couple of years and how it's slowly gone downhill. Now I'm going to shout out my guy, George Warhop. He managed to get Laramie Tunsil to be the highest paid left tackle in football, managed to get Titus Howard to be, I think, if not number 1, top 2 or 3 highest paid right tackles in football, both playing their best football. And then he was let go, and the O-line's been in steep decline since then. Now, we've talked about C.J. Stroud and the regression since year 1, and a lot of that's been tied to the O-line. Does he trust the O-line? Is that, kind of the major defect of the offense was the offensive coordinator? So they've been looking to fix this the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Last year was a little bit of an interesting way to do it, getting rid of your left tackle. That was more of a culture play, wanting a guy in the room that, maybe a little more team-oriented than some of the things you hear about Tunsil. But it didn't really work out. The O-line was still a issue for them. And so getting a guy in the interior who's nasty, who's physical, going to help in the run game, going to help in the pass game, probably going to be, a leader of the unit within a couple years. When you're on the field and you see a guy finishing and doing these little things, it gets you just to do it. Like, you don't want to look kind of like the doofus on film who's not finishing and who's just like kind of giving up when there's another guy making a play. So a guy like Rutledge is obviously a good player, gonna make your quarterback, happy and healthy and standing upright when he's staring down the barrel on 3rd and 12. But also he's gonna raise the play, he's gonna raise the finish, raise the nasty of the rest of the guys in the unit as well. Not quite like Quentin Nelson at number 6, like instant guy who's gonna be an All-Pro and be the leader of the offensive line. But I think he could have a similar-ish impact. So that was one of the ones that stood out to me, by a long shot.
Just generally speaking about the offensive linemen in this draft, Fano, 9 to the Browns, Maunoga to the Giants at 10, Proctor to the Dolphins at 12, Vega, Ione, 14 to Penn State. That felt like the most mocked.
I think you're 50% on pronunciations.
Probably. I won't be good at it the rest of my life. Blake Miller, Monroe Freeling.
There you go. You got that one.
I'm Max, and we're stopped there at Arizona State. I don't want to be made fun of again. And then Rutledge, obviously, there. I got that one right. Whew, there we go. Lomu. I got that one right too. 28. I thought it was an interesting offensive line draft, Mitch. I didn't like a ton of the fits, to be honest with you. I'm kind of curious. Like, I think Proctor's good. I don't like the fit in Miami. I don't really like Blake Miller's fit in Detroit. I think Freeling will start right away for the Panthers. That's probably ends up being a good pick. The Steelers, there's a lot of work to be done there. They haven't developed a lot of offensive lineman tackle in years now. I don't know, man. I didn't really like the fits in this draft for the offensive linemen.
Yeah, it was a little bit interesting. I guess the question is for the Browns need a guy at every spot. So wherever you pencil Fano in there, but I don't think you'd take him if he was an interior guy at number 9. Again, I think when you're looking at interior offensive linemen, you need a guy who's going to elevate the entire O-line like right away. And that's not necessarily him, especially as being a little bit quicker, a little more mobile, not quite, the physical nasty. I do like what the Giants did there at 10. Probably not going to be a right tackle. It seems like he's going to be a right guard. Maybe he kicks out to right tackle in a year or two after, Illuminor's contract's up. Proctor, we talked about that last week. I'm not the hugest fan of. I just don't see, like, everyone talks about the size and the ability and the athleticism and the explosion. I just don't see it as much on film as we like. And then you got that quote from Saban basically saying he's not a self-starter and he's going to come in overweight. But he's a good kid. Saban had experience with him as a freshman. So yes. I don't know if that was the 18-year-old version of him. Guys change a ton by 21, 22. So I don't want to put that all on him. But it's also not great if Saban feels compelled to give that story right before the draft.
Right.
And then, you kind of go further down. I think Blake Miller's a good enough fit in Detroit. I think they just wanted a competent football player. I think we just think of them as like, well, you got to be physical and you got to be nasty. Like, you just got to be a good player. And, he's got the pedigree with all the starts there and, done a good job. I actually think, like you said, Freeling is the one that makes a lot of sense and a pretty good fit. You got Icky coming off the injury, so Freeling probably fits into left tackle right now. If Icky comes back and he's healthy, then you could potentially move Freeling over to right tackle once Moten, is done. I don't know how many more years he has, but you kind of got an interesting, kind of 3 tackle rotation there, and taking a guy that I think probably tested a little better Freeling than he looks on film.
Yes.
Just watching him, you don't think like he's I'm not a huge RAS guy, but everyone knows those. Like, he's not a 9.99 RAS guy on film.
Not everyone can be a 2.7, a 2.7, a 4-time All-Pro. That takes some special skill.
Yeah. So, so we'll see. Again, it's a good fit. I think that one, fit perspective, I think the Giants and the Panthers, and I put the Lions up there still. And obviously the Texans, I led with that.
The thing with Fano at 9 is that, and you play with Warhop, is that I just don't know body style if like he's going to vertical set like that's Warhop's thing, right? I think I'm correct on that. Like, I just don't know how that hit Fano's play style matches what the offensive line coach teaches there.
Yeah, Warhop is more of a vertical set guy, but he's not like a Paul Alexander like catch guy. That's to me the difference. Where Paul Alexander relied on, Andrew Whitworth, Andre Smith, Willie Anderson, just like big, strong mofos who can not use their hands, low hand, high hand, catch, double under. That was Paul's thing, and it works when you're 350 plus. Then all of a sudden, at the end of the Paul Alexander era, he's drafting, was it Blake Fisher from Oregon? He drafted Cedric. I'm not going to pronounce that last name.
There you go.
There you go. But he drafted 300, 305 pound guys and tried to apply the same technique. Didn't work. Warhop is a vertical setter, but he's a big puncher. Basically all the drills that were my favorites throughout the course of my career came from those first 2 years in Cleveland with Warhop, punching med balls. Hop puts the gloves on and he has you do punching against him with padded gloves, which I absolutely loved. So yeah, it's a little bit of an interesting fit from a vertical set perspective, but he's got the quickness and the ability to get to the spot. And then if he's good with his hands at that point, it's the technique that's going to become the point of strength. It's not necessarily a pure size thing because he's not teaching a catch and a double under. So I think that one could make a lot of sense, especially if they kick him inside. Maybe they see him as, a Joel Bitonio guy who was kind of talked about a little bit. Could he play tackle? Athletic enough too, but size-wise, we like to slide him into guard. So we'll see how that one plays out. But yeah, I mean, theoretically, vertical setting, it helps if you're a little heftier just because the space to the quarterback is compressed. If you think of how far away you are from the quarterback, the wider you set, the more space, the more wiggle room you have. And so that one, and then you get to the Arizona State kid and Pittsburgh, and I absolutely hate when teams don't take into account what side offensive linemen play on. And so Pittsburgh has Broderick Jones at left tackle, and they have Fatanu at right tackle, who had a great year at right tackle, like kind of becoming one of the rising stars at right tackle. And now they draft a right tackle who's barely played any football in his life. And so what are you going to do? Move a guy who's shown that he's better on the right side now to left tackle? Or move the kid who's, not played much football in his life to left tackle and have him kind of restart? So that's one from the fit perspective, to your point. I didn't like that one quite as much.
My favorite pick of the entire first round, I got two of them, Mitch. They're both guys on defense. I think the Cowboys did a fantastic job maneuvering to get Caleb Downs. I think he's a really good football player. And he was the best player as a true freshman on Alabama's defense. He's
been like the best player on defense for 3 straight years in college football.
It's unbelievable. I think that if he was, positional value matters, of course, but if you take the best football player in this draft, he's in the top 3, and they got him at 11. And I think Sonny Styles at 7 for the Commanders, just a perfect fit for what the Commanders will get out of him and what Dan Quinn wants from a linebacker in that defense. I feel like they hit a home run there at 7 with Sonny Styles. Let's get to our Worston show, our least favorite pick of day one. I know there's only 2 options, Mitch, but I'm curious what your least favorite pick of day one was.
I didn't even know there were 2 options. I thought there was just the Ty Simpson one. I went with Ty Simpson, and to me, it's not because of it's Stafford's last year or 2, and they got to capitalize on the window. I just don't think he's worthy of the number 13 pick. I don't necessarily see him as a guy that's that high. He's not super big. He's already had some injury stuff in college. Guys like that, you kind of worry about long-term how they're going to hold up in the NFL. Now, situation-wise, a lot of people have talked about, is it beneficial for a quarterback to learn under a top 2 or 3 offensive mind sitting behind one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL and one of the best guys we've seen over the last couple decades? The fit the fit from that perspective is an A+ to be able to learn and kind of take your time and not rush into it. But I get that we're not going to be at 13, ever again, theoretically, with Stafford, and we're not going to have the ability to take a quarterback this high. But in an ordinary draft, isn't he a guy that you'd find at 29, 30, next year?
Yes.
We have this awesome quarterback draft coming next year. You're not going to get any of those top 3 or 4 guys, but the guy that you're going to pick at 29, 30, 31, aren't they going to be comparable to what a Ty Simpson is like this year? And that's where I think, yes, and you have the opportunity to, take a potential, offensive tackle of the future, or take a, defensive lineman. Bain was still available. There are guys that you could have taken, I think, to fit your team. And again, not timeline-wise, I just think taking him at that pick is a massive reach.
I just don't think he's that good. And this is the entire point that we've made, right? Is that if you are drafting a player that I think is better and that projects, in my opinion, to come in not right away, but next year be good, then sure, make this pick. I heard the argument, Mitch, that maybe they viewed this as, we're drafting a backup quarterback because we want to win now. And if Stafford gets hurt for a month, we need someone to come in and help us win. And Jimmy G obviously is retiring. So we're drafting Ty Simpson to be our backup quarterback, which again, I'm not sure that's using your resources great.
That's worse logic.
and I agree, but someone's trying to sell me on that idea that they're just a backup quarterback and that's what they're doing for him. But even if the timeline works out to their advantage, and this is why I didn't agree with like the Falcons doing the Michael Penix deal. Well, in 2 or 3 years, he'll be our guy. Well, now we're at that point, and Michael Penix is probably not the guy, right? And now you wasted the 8th pick in the draft on a quarterback that might not be the guy. Make your team better now, in my opinion, and worry about later. This is not like a Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith situation because he's not as good as Patrick Mahomes coming out of college, right? They're different players. So I just didn't like this. But the other one, Mitch, that the the Jeremiah Love one bothered me because I don't think you should draft a quarterback, a running back, if you don't have the other
you are. You can't even
pieces.
get the names or the positions right.
I don't think you should draft a running back that early in the draft, pay him $50 million guaranteed, if you don't have the resources in place to use that running back effectively in the first couple of years that they are in your program, right? We've seen this many, many times. If you add a running back to your team that, Saquon Barkley, right, to the Eagles, McCaffrey to the Niners, like if you add Gibbs to the Lions, like you have a sort of a ready-made offense and you put the running back in that offense, it can accelerate the success of his offense. Arizona right now has no quarterback of the future. I'm not sure Carson Beck is that guy. Their offensive line, I like their second round pick, but I'm not sure it's going to be great this year, right, Mitch? So like, when are you going to get the most out of him? Year 3? Okay, I mean, so you drafted the 3rd pick overall on a running back that's going to be useful years from now. I just don't like that process for me. I would have taken Reese, Styles, like someone just to come in immediately on your defense and be good. So if people disagree with me on that one, we have years and years of information on this, man. I think it's a waste of a draft pick for Arizona to take a running back at 3.
Yeah, and it's like, this is where you kind of get into the positional value and the contracts and all that stuff. Like, especially comparing with the Ty Simpson thing, you talk about the best asset in football, it's a quarterback on a rookie contract. Well, the Rams are going to waste probably one of those years unless like something catastrophic happens to Stafford. Seems like he's year to year, but I guess he plays 2 years if he's healthy enough. So you're all of a sudden looking at like, well, we're only getting, theoretically like 1/3 or 1/2 of the value of a rookie playing on a rookie contract at the quarterback position. And the flip side to your point with Love is that you're paying a guy now, top 3 or 4 at the position, most guaranteed money for the position in history, and you're not going to be able to maximize him in the first couple years when you're paying him high value money already because the surroundings aren't necessarily what you're looking at. So, I know these teams like to talk about, well, he's a weapon and we'll use him at receiver. Like, no one does that. No. He's a running back. I understand, LaFleur comes in and coming from the Shanahan-McVay tree there, the run game and everything that's beneficial there. But again, a running back can only overcome his surroundings so much. And I think pretty much everyone's in agreement that the Cardinals, as of right now, it doesn't seem like those surroundings are good enough, for him to be a top of the line running back. And that's what is going to be required when you take a guy number 3. It doesn't matter that he's a fantastic football player. Like, this is one of the things I kind of want to hit on later, but like, it would be great to talk about him being a fantastic football player and all the fun things he's going to bring to the offense, but we're kind of stuck talking about him in a negative light because of how high he was picked.
The Cole Strange Award, the biggest surprise of the first round for you was what draft pick?
It's still Ty Simpson. That was just like a huge shock to me. I know there's like the chatter, but you just didn't think the Rams would do that at 13. When the pick is in at 13, I just don't assume that was happening. The trade back, then yeah, all of a sudden, you could think about that. I will say, again, because I try not to be on like social media too much, I try to like actually watch the draft and be surprised by it. I did think picks 2, 3, and 4 were like riveting. I had no idea which direction they were going to go. I know you said, you got the word on Bailey a month ago, but the odds kept flip-flopping. Seemed like the money was coming in on a Reese at the end. But like, I had no direction which that was going to go. And then you see Love at 3 and you see Tate at 4. Like, those were shocks and surprises to me, even though they had kind of been talked about. You weren't sure what was a smokescreen, what was not. So I still enjoyed watching that. So honestly, picks 2, 3, 4. I loved watching those. A surprise, a little bit of tension there, trying to figure out who it was. And then the later round or the mid round shocker was still Ty Simpson to me. What about you?
I mean, it was Tate. When Tate was drafted by 4 of Tennessee, that was the one I was just shocked. I was shocked, Mitch, because, again, we're going to save our discussion about consensus big boards for a little bit. We're going to keep teasing you guys on that. But, I read the mock drafts. You read the mock drafts. You talk to people. I talk to people. I don't think anyone really thought Tate was going 4, right? When you look at the way...
No one. I remember, specifically, I was like, oh my God. And Brooke's like, what happened? I was like, this guy got drafted and no one thought he'd go there.
Because, look, you have to weigh a couple things if you're solid, right? Like, you're a defensive coach, and year one, in my opinion, you fixed your side of the ball as a head coach, right? You fix the offense or defense. Whatever you're good at, you fix that. That's how most do. I think most do it that way.
Most do it that way, but is that the way you should do it? Because you're also looking at again, quarterback on a rookie deal, number one overall pick. You don't want to ruin him. You don't want to waste his confidence. Right. So can we find guys to get open so we can get rid of the ball?
So that's the rub here, right? Is that he has to do this job, but also prepare for Cam Ward, right? And so you have to do both those things. I just thought they would go with a defender because the guys Reese and Styles are still there. And presumably at the end of the first round, which they traded back up into, you would get a wide receiver, right? I mean, Omar Cooper was right before them when they drafted Folk. I don't like the Folk draft pick either. So part of that is I just didn't like that they went back in the first round for a pass rusher that's big and unproductive in college. Maybe Robert Saleh fixes him, which is certainly fair.
Honestly, so real quick, I think they probably view him as like an Eric Armstead, where he's kind of tall, long, rangy. And so this is the Saleh system, is he likes playing a little bit bigger and a little bit better run defense outside and kind of sub packages on early downs. And then you can kick inside to 3-tech on pass downs, which is like what Armstead did for so many years there. So he probably sees that as like, this is my Armstead, kind of situational guy, can play defensive end, early downs, provide some run defense, a little bit of pass rush, and then kick him inside on third down and let him rush and, attack these guards. So I see the vision. I just don't necessarily think that, they're going to get the best production out of it.
I mean, I think just looking at those two guys in college, I mean, Armstead did play inside, right? Folk did not. So it's just hard to compare. The pro comp
he played kind of 4-tech-ish though. So
yeah, but when it was time to rush the passer, Folk played outside, right? And Armstead played inside for Chip. I think, in those two different.
Yeah, I mean, I think I went against Armstead a little bit in college, but they had Deion Jordan and Eric Armstead just
I think you would have played him in
6'6" freaks,
and they had a Buckner too.
Yeah, it was freaky, man.
Yeah, they were good those couple of years. All right, let's get to the Linderbaum Award, favorite moment in the draft. Mitch, this is because our boss Gabe Goodwin loves Tyler Linderbaum for some reason. We do a mock draft every year, and it's the only name he remembered years ago. He just drafted Linderbaum. He got it right. He drafted him to the Ravens in our mock draft, and so this is our feel-good moment of the draft. Is there a feel-good moment for you of the entire 3 days?
I'm going to switch that and be negative. My favorite thing was complaining about ESPN being so just I don't know if it was the time thing. They were so far behind and I tweeted about it and people were, kind of loving it and agreeing with it. Just first off, the draft starts and I'm not like a pander to the crowd kind of guy, but Hayward's there and Watt's there and let's go Pittsburgh and waving the towels.
It was so Goodell didn't get booed.
Goodell loves getting booed though. He eggs them on and saying that's not loud enough. I actually think he enjoys that. He said he doesn't care about it. So it's yeah, I get that you're doing stuff for Pittsburgh. Is Pittsburgh not gonna be excited when they're on the clock at 21? We needed to see Terry Bradshaw and Jerome Bettis on stage. Those are a little bit less down the line, but the pace of it, like I've said a couple times, I like seeing things live as they're happening, but I also like seeing people's reactions on social media. And at times they were 10 or 12 minutes behind. There were trades, a pick or two ahead being, announced because picks were in ahead of them, and ESPN still had the teams before on the clock. It wasn't even pick is in. I don't think anyone cares about seeing a guy take 5 minutes to walk from the green room to the stage. No one cares about the hat situation. We don't need to film that. The hug, yeah, great. That happens for 15 seconds. Let's, cut down on the interview just a little bit. There's only so many times we can see guys thanking the same people. I love watching the draft. I love the spectacle of it. I want to see more of this is the draft. This is the guy's highlights. This is why he's a great fit, or this is why he's not a great fit. Let's get a little bit more analysis, a little bit less of all the fluff going on. There were some actual feel-good moments of the draft. I'll let you kind of cover that. But for me, it was fun to kind of talk about what we wanted to see in the draft And I don't know, again, I don't know if it was the cut down to 8 minutes or like what was going on. It honestly felt like just the walk from the green room was so long that they got so far behind.
I really think it was that they just didn't factor in what the 8 minutes would feel like, Mitch. Like, I just think I mean, I saw a tweet that, in 2007, the draft was 6 hours long, and now it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's just so much different now. And they just didn't budget in the time correctly. They were 2 picks behind the internet in the first round, which is like shocking, where Jordan Schultz is tweeting out, here's pick 20, you turn the telecast on, and they're just announcing pick 17. And like, it just can't be that far. I don't even know how they know it's that far. I don't know how Jordan Schultz knew it's that far ahead if they're just announcing it like that. But it was bad, and I just caught some of it on TV because I was my son at a baseball game. But wasn't great.
So what was your actual like Linderbaum Award feel good moment though?
I mean, I love the phone calls, but I think are pretty awesome, right? To see how happy everyone is. That is a moment that you'll never have back, right? I think the feel good moment though is that black lab who took the seat of Oscar Delp, I think it was, after he got drafted, and that dog was living his best life. He could tell he was a little overwhelmed. He just wanted his seat back on the couch. He jumped on that couch and he was not getting back up again. So I give my feel good moment to the dog. It looked like a chocolate lab, Mitch, who got his seat back after his buddy was drafted in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all kind of suckers for animal content on the internet,
Yes.
but it has to be organic. It's to me the Herb Street thing. Like, dude, we get it. You've got a freaking dog that travels private.
Buddy, you are singing. We have a band list, and on the band list is Peter the dog, because it's. Here's the thing, Mitch. It's I saw him at the Super Bowl. It's Radio Row.
Cool him dog. As the dog or Herb Street?
The dog, both. I saw the dog. Both. But like, it's just sort of the dog just like wanders. Like, it just wanders around Radio Row. Like, there's no training. It just be wandering everywhere. Wherever want to go, just wandered all the way around. But yeah, that dog is definitely force fed to us. And also he moved on from his other dog pretty fast.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I didn't really talk about that because I don't know if that's a faux pas, but it was like 2 days later he had a new dog. I was like, okay, that was immediately quick there.
I promise you, buddy. Where's he at? My dog's behind me. I won't move on after 2 days. I can't look at him though because he'll come and want attention. So we'll pretend he's not behind me. So again, the phone calls are great. The moments with animals are great. Their organic moments are awesome. Some of the tweets were just like incredible. There was was it when Peter Woods got drafted? Was he wearing the green suit? Everyone was wearing white in his family.
I think so, yeah.
Was? And then
like
right behind him was
a wedding dress.
Yeah, and then right behind him was the only white guy in the room, which is clearly his agent. It's like right behind him. It's like those little those tweets and those moments to me are fun, and that's part of the fun part of the internet. Sometimes is like a day like that when you just get some of those funny tweets throughout the day. So those are our feel good moments here. The Act 3 Andy Sachs Award. I assume this is because Devil Wears Prada comes out on Friday. I will probably see Devil Wears Prada at some point very soon, Mitch. It is a family favorite here in the Schwartz household. Let's get to so this is the Andy Sachs Award for the best fit you didn't see coming in the draft. And mine is the Jets. I just thought the Jets had a fantastic first round, Mitch. I mean, they got David Bailey, who we disagree, I think, a little bit on his potential at some point in his career. They got Kenyon Sadiq, who I love, out of Oregon, a tight end, and they got Cooper Jr., a very good wide receiver. So I think the Jets, to me, I didn't see them coming out of the draft with 3 guys like this. I mean, you could have an option to get 2 or 3 guys that aren't very good. I think they chose the right guy in these situations. What was the fit you didn't see coming?
I will say I was pretty high on Bailey. It was Bain is the one I was not as big a fan of, but I think Bailey and Reese are really high. You mentioned Dallas. I think Dallas, that the Downs and Lawrence, I thought Malachi Lawrence had some pretty good juice at the position and wasn't getting talked about, quite as much as some of the other guys. That's the thing with Bailey too, is like, you can't coach that. You can't train into juice and athleticism and burst off the edge. So you either have it or you don't. But to me, it was the Texans. I mean, I mentioned Rutledge off the bat. Then they get Kalen McDonald, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. That's like the kind of defense run stopping, clog up the middle. And they just solidifying the interior of both lines, especially defensively. That's such a good defense. That was, maybe the only position on the defense you could say had a little bit of weakness. Like they could come out, and if guys stay healthy, like theoretically have an all-time defense this next year. They're still, it's going to change a lot in the next couple of years as, Daniil Hunter and Anderson and some of the other guys are getting paid and starts hitting the cap. But for right now, like this is the window for that defense, and being able to get a guy like that in the middle is going to do huge things for him. And then again, I already talked about Rutledge. So that like physicality, toughness, kind of building your team from the core out. I think the Texans could have gone in a lot of different directions, but getting those two guys, within the first 35 or 40 picks, I think was just a fantastic fit for them, and it really fits their identity.
Well, the next award we have is going to be the Prime Cut Award, the team that added the most beef to the trenches. I feel like we both agree it's going to Texans. I don't want to belabor the point here on the Texans, but I mean, they did a great job in the trenches. You talked about the reasons why they had to add, especially offensive line. They added another defensive lineman. Was there anyone else, Mitch, in the first couple of days that you liked what they did in the trenches?
Well, if you want to go Prime Cut Award for the team that added the literal most beef, it's Philly. They take Markel Bell, who's a monster of a dude at 6'9", like 350 plus.
Yeah.
Also, if you're over 350, like if you're listed at 345 or 350, that's probably 375.
Yes.
And then they get Micah Morris, who's listed at 6'5", 335, but that's probably a plus on the 335 there. So you're talking about just like massive guys. Their left tackle is 365. Lane's a freak, and we'll see how much longer Landon plays, but he's a pretty big dude as well. And then they draft, Bernard, the defensive tackle from Nigeria, who's a massive project, much like Mailata was, but he's 300 plus and like 6% body fat, whatever that was, 8%. Yeah. So if you want to talk about like actual beef size, it's hard not to be impressed just by the sheer physicality of the guys Philly drafted. And I know Stoutland's not there anymore, but just they've had a pretty good track record on the offensive line of identifying even like a guy like Pryor, who's pretty tall, pretty big. I think had a solid career, especially for his draft position. So being able to take larger humans and make them work on the offensive line. Another guy like Mekhi Becton, his only really good year, finding him at the guard spot, and 6'8", 6'9", and 370 plus he was. So you'd like to think that Philly's going to do a good job of developing those guys as well.
Stoutland, by the way, is still a little involved there, I think, because I knew Stoutland loved Bell for a couple of days, and I think he's still involved a little. He's obviously not coaching them, but I'm curious because the Eagles developed the offensive line with Stoutland. He's not there anymore, right? So a guy like Bell, who has the potential to be really good if there's some development there and keep his weight down and whatnot, can he do that, or can they do that without Stoutland there? Be fun to watch Philly figure it out without Stoutland.
Well, I'm curious, like. This is zero inside information. Haven't talked to anyone. Just pure speculation. But I wonder if in a couple years he comes back for another year or two, kind of like Scarnecchia did. Dante had stepped away for a little bit and then kind of came back. I wonder. It's weird that Stoutland stepped away. I don't know if it's a fit with the coordinator, a fit with the head coach. Like there was something going on behind the scenes. But in a universe where this keeps going in a certain direction for Philly, and they pull the plug on Sirianni and they bring in a new head coach, could Stoutland come back in a couple years and maybe he's able to develop those guys? I wouldn't put that out of the equation either. And if he's there in a consulting role and maybe there's a little bit of like, hey, I might come back in a couple years when I'm refreshed, then I could really see that being a positive, drafting guys that he likes that are large as well.
Well, he just went on the New Heights podcast and basically said the offense sucked in Philly. So
I saw that. You got to call the right place at the right time.
Yeah. which was a good way to say that the OC didn't know what he was doing. I did find it interesting when they announced he wasn't coming back. It was like, well, he can't learn the Shanahan scheme. I'm like, well, I'm sure he could. I think he could figure it out, guys. I thought that was kind of a poor excuse that was given for why he couldn't be retained.
Yeah, it seems like he probably had some disagreements behind the scenes and was just like, I'm out. Like,
yeah, why bother? I've won my championships. I've done what I had to do. I do agree with you, though. The Scar thing makes sense for him to come back. All right, Mitch, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with a few more awards to talk about, consensus big board, and some other news and notes. We'll do that next. Be right back. All right, Mitch, back with a few more awards. I like this one here. The PFF Howie Award, the GM who'll get the best PR from this draft. And it's, again, Harry Roseman. And look, I give him credit, Mitch, because that trade he pulled off is really embarrassing to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's on the phone with Mekhi Lemon going to draft him, okay? Now, they thought, and rightfully so, that Dallas at 20 was not going to draft a wide receiver. So they called Lemon and said, hey, man, we're going to draft you 21. All of a sudden, the Eagles trade with the Cowboys, interdivision trade, and they then draft Mekhi Lemon. There's video. He's on the phone with Pittsburgh, and says, "Oh, why is Philly calling me right now?" And his agent goes, "You're being drafted by the Eagles." He hangs up the phone and gets drafted. Like, that to me is a masterclass from Howie Roseman. He wins the PFF award named after him.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off script here and not name him. I've talked about the Texans a bunch. I think they had a great draft. I think the Raiders had a pretty solid draft. Top to bottom. We can kind of debate the Mendoza and where he'd slot in, and a quote unquote more traditional quarterback class. But I still think they had a good draft and picked up some guys at all sorts of positions. I mean, they're filling the roster out pretty good. They signed a bunch of dudes in free agency. Obviously, Crosby's still going to be there. Getting the quarterback, running an offensive scheme that's going to be beneficial and does well in the NFL. I think the Giants, we kind of hit on them, especially the first couple picks. We talked about Dallas. So there are a bunch of teams. I mean, even Cleveland, I think, I'm going to bring them up a little bit later. I think they overall had a really solid draft and being able to trade from 6 to 9, pick them an extra 3rd and 5th in the process. And everyone says we got the guy that we were targeting anyway, but, being able to do what they're doing. So yeah, it seemed like there were a lot of candidates, but I guess, Howie did it again. So he gets his own award.
Where would you put the performance of Brett Veach in this one?
The draft made more sense after the next 2 picks. I wasn't a huge fan of going from 9 to 6 and giving up an early 3rd rounder, which Kansas City typically doesn't have from their own pick. It's usually end of the round in the 90s.
Yeah.
A 3rd and a 5th to get the corner. It made sense when they got Woods and then they got our Mason Thomas. Because my thing was like, the corner doesn't matter if you can't get to the quarterback. He can't cover for 8 seconds. Like, I don't care how good he is.
Right.
But once you get a defensive tackle that, theoretically is going to look more like the 2024 version, once you get a defensive end that, actually has burst and potentially could threaten an offensive tackle off the corner, and maybe even win a one-on-one. We'll see. You start combining those guys, and then, the other, kind of fringe rushers get a little bit of a boost because you got more attention being played, not just against Chris. The Delane pick made a little bit more sense, but if you stay at 9 and you take Caleb Downs, if you roll the dice on Delane, is Tyson potentially at 9 could have been an option. And then we talked about that not fitting the Chiefs and an injury risk guy, but I don't know, it made more sense. And then you get the other corner, and some of the quotes coming out of Kansas City are that Delane is a little bit more maybe versatile than McDuffie was. I hate the comparison of the two. Like, you didn't trade McDuffie to draft Delane,
no,
per se. You traded a corner that you didn't think was worth a market resetting contract, because again, like, one single corner, we've seen this, it doesn't really matter how good they are. It needs to be a good secondary. Having great corners in a good secondary is really nice, but that also doesn't matter if the pass rush isn't there. Like, the best defenses we've seen over the last 10 years, it's the 49ers, 8 defensive linemen that can rush the passer.
Yep.
That Jets defense, yeah, they had Sauce and Reed and a couple other guys, but it was, again, the defensive line could get after the quarterback. The Chiefs, best years defensively a couple years ago, yeah, it was great, but Chris was a beast. Amenahu was healthy that one little stretch, in the playoffs, like Frank Clark turning it on. So just being able to rush the passer, I still think is more important than one singular corner and then giving up extra draft capital to take him. So once the rest of the draft, kind of shook out, it made more sense. Would you rather have like Downs at 9 and a wide receiver in the early 3rd, or would you rather have Delane? I think that's maybe the question that we should be asking, but I think the Woods and Thomas picks made sense, and then they picked up some guys later in the draft and some of these free agent signings that do make some sense to the roster. It seems like speed was kind of at the forefront. This was a team that's progressively gotten slower over the last few years, so not worrying as much about arm length and worrying more about how fast the guy can run, I think is a really good direction for the team.
I think that a lot of the information we get about these players is really good, right? And you mentioned the relative athletic scores, which is a good tool to have, right? But I think sometimes fans get really caught up in that type of thing. And, the analysis, well, these guys have short arms. Like, but do they play good football? Like, are they good football players? And of course, the arms do matter in some instances, Mitch. I'm not dismissing all that. But, like, I feel like the Chiefs just drafted guys that are fast and good football. Like, they're slow. Their defense is slow. Like, they drafted faster football players. They drafted faster guys. Not drafted. It's undrafted free. Now, the undrafted free agents are all like 9.8 RAS scores. Like, they went and got all those athletic guys. So it kind of mixed in here and there some athletic guys with upside, also guys that can sort of fit right now for Kansas City. So I thought it ended up being fine in the end. The James Gladstone Award for biggest head scratcher of the draft. Look, this is the time to have this discussion here. So, a consensus big board is essentially, a way to take all the big boards of the trusted people in the draft industry, put them together, and you understand sort of where everyone is ranked. Okay, and is it the same board that NFL teams use? No, but Mitch, the people that put the boards together that we trust talk to teams. Like, they're not putting together these boards without sort of an understanding of where these guys shake out in the grand scheme of things. So when a player is drafted at pick 50, who is consensus big board 187, we sort of have an idea of where the general consensus is on said player. And general managers will tell you they sort of pay attention to that, right? Like, is there buzz about a certain player? And if I'm drafting that player in the second round, why is no one talking about him? Am I just wrong on this guy? It makes you go reevaluate. And we have data, by the way, especially early in the rounds. If you overdraft guys, they tend to stink in the NFL. There's data with that. Like the 49ers, and we'll get to in a second, but I'll just do this now. Warren Sharp put out a tweet. He's ranked their draft like 29 to 32 the last 4 years. Go look at their drafts. They fucking suck. They're not good football players, right? Like, so you can mock the consensus big board all you want, but it is a valuable tool for us to sort of understand, are you drafting guys where you relatively should draft those guys? I know you put out like a 7-point bulletin, so please add on to what I've said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the consensus big board. The people that are detractors would say, well, one, it doesn't matter. It only matters that, teams evaluate guys on their own. Like, two, the only people that can evaluate, properly are in the NFL. If you're good enough to be in the NFL, you'd be scouting for a team. That's bullshit.
Not true. I hate that. Sorry. I hate that so much because there are so many people that we like and we talk to that, dude, they're really good at evaluating football that have not played football. Like, the idea that you can only be good, and there, of course, goes the other way around too. But there are a lot of guys that we like that never, like Robert Mays, did not play football past high school. I think very good at talking about football. Like, you spend your entire life immersed in it, and a lot of those people too, by the way, Mitch, that we like are very curious, right? They talk about football. They try to learn from us. And I don't know why people are so against those type of people having opinions about the NFL. Yeah, they didn't play in the NFL. So what? There are guys that play in the NFL that have terrible opinions.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, well, our board had 130, big boards on it or whatever. It's like, some of those people are idiots or we don't trust them. It's like, the whole point of a consensus big board is that people are theoretically doing their own work to figure out who the best players are. They're not necessarily looking at others. I feel like Chris Sims maybe is a little bit, does it on purpose, but like, when guys have these kind of outlandish takes, they get crushed for it. So it's like, do we want them to think on their own or do we not want them to think on their own? But there's a wisdom of the crowds theory, and there's some other theories that are out there. Like, if you have a jar of marbles and you're asked how many marbles are in this, if you ask like 100 people, the average of all those answers is actually really close to the actual answer. It's just like, there's weird phenomenons that like a bunch of people that just have opinions tend to kind of find the right answer if you take all their data combined. Right. And so that's the idea of the consensus board, is you take all these people that are not really doing it all together. There are some probably mock drafts that are in there that maybe have some team filters, but for the most part, it's big boards. It's guys that are evaluating football independently. This is how I see them. And so you get 100 plus of those together, and all of a sudden things start to crystallize. And a lot of people think that these are the top 10 and these are the top 30 and these are the top 60. And so, to your point, when you deviate in a huge direction from that, it turns out that's not really great. Now, there's also data. They've looked into this. Like, PFF has looked into it. Some other guys have looked into it. There's data that shows that the correlation of the consensus big board to where guys are drafted in the NFL, their production level, second contracts, all those things, it's actually really good. It's like almost like perfectly correlated to how good the NFL is at drafting guys, despite the fact that none of the people theoretically doing their own big boards know about the degenerative nature of McCoy's knee, or this guy's got a bad back, or this guy's a terrible person and he's not going to, work hard. Despite not knowing all the things, mentally, physically that the NFL knows, the consensus big boards actually historically been really close to the NFL in predicting outcomes. Now, where it kind of breaks off the chart is fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round. A little bit. It's still pretty close, but that's because, again, you got less people that are probably caring about being Dane Brugler and scouting 550 people. So you're not going to get quite as good information. But like, again, it's a tool. It's not the tool. It's not, you need to take this guy because he's next up on the consensus board. It's, you drafted a guy at 50 that was 174. Would it be better to wait until 130 and draft a guy who's 130 on the big board than it is to take a guy at 50 who's 174? Yeah. History has shown that, yes, that is better to do that and potentially lose out on the guy because one other team had them graded higher. So that's where the big boards come into play. It's not gospel. It's not the only thing you need to be looking at, but it's a data point. It's been fact checked, these years against itself, against some other metrics. And it turns out it's a pretty good tool. And there are articles that show that teams look at mock drafts. They have data analysts. They compile mock drafts. They try to figure out where guys are going to be drafted. To your point, Philly, jumping Pittsburgh at 21 because they had some intel that Fields would, or that Lemon would potentially get taken there. The Chiefs kept saying New Orleans was going to take Delane at 8. We had that info. We couldn't trade up to 7, so we needed to trade up to 6, and Cleveland wanted to come down. Like, getting information from big boards, from intel, from all those things is good. Like, you don't have to use it. Obviously, the James Gladstone Award he's probably going to win it. But, like, you don't have to use it. You can deviate from it. But we've seen huge deviations from that board being pretty negative. If he had taken a guy who was 68th on the big board at 50, yeah, it's a little bit of a reach, but it's not a big deal. It's when you take a guy that's 4 rounds different when you're drafting in the second round, and most people have a late 5th grade on him. So yeah, I'm assuming he's your winner for this award.
Yeah, he's James Gladstone is the Jacksonville Jaguars general manager. He's super young, in his mid-30s. Last year was his first draft. He traded up, remember, to get Travis Hunter, and then decided to play him at 2 positions, and then decided this offseason, I think we're playing him at 1, but then Travis Hunter said he disagreed with that assessment, so who knows where that stands at right now. But according to Warren Sharp here, some of the draft picks by James Gladstone, according to Consensus Big Board. So he picked tight end from Texas A&M at pick 56. His expected pick was 163. He picked a defensive lineman in the 3rd round, expected to be taken at 150, but taken at pick 81. A safety in the 3rd round as well. His expected pick was 187, taken at pick 100. An edge rusher in the 4th round, expected to be pick 236, taken at pick 119. And there's like 4 more of these in this draft. Mitch, is there another GM or another team you had that might fit this award?
I mean, can I go back to the Ty Simpson pick? But
sure.
I kind of thought that pick, and I thought Seattle taking a running back at the end of round 1 was, a little bit much. Especially when we kind of talked about, the right guard potentially needing replaced. I mean, D tackle McDonald was still available. Some of the DNs, we saw this like run of defensive ends going from, picks 33 to 45. That still some good players. Or at like 32, not finding someone to, trade back with potentially. I mean, you never know what those conversations are. As much as we talked about Love at 3 and like he's a good player and his backup ended up being the second running back taken, which is kind of funny. I just didn't love, taking that guy at 32, when I feel like you could have really solidified some of the other core positions on your team and there were still guys available to do that.
You know what this pick felt like when the Chiefs drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 32, just because like, we won a Super Bowl. Like, I don't know, let's just take an XX pick of running back. I mean, just like one of those where it's like, well, we don't really have anyone we might like. We really need a running back, and we just won a Super Bowl, so sort of let's just do it. We might be right this time. And the Chiefs were wrong, and I think that, to your point, there are other players available that probably would help Seattle in a much different way. And I get the running back room is not great right now because Walker left.
Like, would you rather have like Basantis to replace Anthony Bradford? Like, would you rather have McDonald to solidify again that the defensive tackle spot for this amazing defense? Would you rather have R. Mason Thomas to like,
or Terrell or
DeMarcus
Colton
Lawrence
Hood
or
one of the one of the cornerbacks like Hood or Terrell? Like, I'd rather have those guys. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was the one that now it was only 1 pick. I think Seattle did pretty good the rest of their draft, but in terms of like the singular head scratcher, that was one that stuck out for me. As
me and you, we mentioned earlier, we are avid watchers of day 2 and 3 of the NFL draft. Is there a favorite pick or 2 you had of day 2 or 3? Obviously, rounds 2 through 7. I don't expect you to have a favorite pick around 7. I mean, maybe you do, but who's your favorite sort of pick of the second or third day?
I talked about McDonald with the Texans. I think that's just a fantastic fit for them. A really good football player. I really did like the Browns taking Denzel Boston in the second round. I like when teams kind of double up on a position in a draft. I love Concepcion. I thought I wish the Chiefs had gotten him. Just a burst guy, a separator. He can get open. Chiefs are used to guys not catching the ball, so he would have fit in great. But the Browns getting him and then taking Boston, and when you're able to pair two guys at a position who again also play stylistically a little different,
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And from the kind of receiver, I thought Ted Hurst in Tampa. I thought that was a pretty good pick. I think in the third round, towards the end of day 2 there. Even though they've got a lot of receivers, like everyone was like, "Why they drafted Buka last year?" Well, it turned out to have a pretty damn good year. So getting a size speed guy, some downfield ability, I thought that was a pretty good combination of picks there from the receiver perspective. What do you have for day 2?
I love Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker from Texas Tech. I bet him 25-1 to win Rookie of the Year already. I think he'll come into Miami and solidify that group immediately. He's a good football player, man. And maybe I'm a little biased. I watched a ton of Texas Tech film heading into Orange Bowl when Oregon played them, but I tried to find a weakness in any of those guys' games. And that whole defense was.
Well, he might get like 250 tackles because I don't think that team has anybody else.
Correct. So it's great. It's great for that. I mean, I love the Lee Hunter pick the Panthers had, the Texas Tech defensive tackle as well. And look, this is a little crossover here, but I love the pick that the Chiefs made. I think it was a 4th round. Was Jaden Kennedy, the cornerback, the slot. The Chiefs did use my film I posted on the internet on their own video, so you didn't give me credit, but it's okay. I appreciate that anyways.
I'm sure you'll get the 4 cents.
I'm sure I will. He's a good football player, man. He's a perfect Spags guy. He can do a lot of different things. He played in the slot for Oregon. He can tackle. He was kind of our unsung hero on that defense, a guy that no one thought would play this year. A transfer portal player came in, was fantastic for us. I did post a clip, 4th and 1, took on a lead blocker, forced the run outside, tackled the guy. Like, it's just a perfect fit for Spags, in my opinion, for that defense.
Real quick, just brief interlude. I think when we say Spags guys, we can only refer to defensive backs now. I don't think we can talk about Spags guys at defensive line and linebacker because we're not necessarily seeing the return on value there.
I know.
They have a good plan for secondary guys, but
they do.
They changed it this draft. They went anti quote unquote Spags guys on the defensive line, but I'm getting a little bit tired of hearing like which guys he prefers when the defense has devolved into the manner because they can't get to the quarterback.
I think that the R. Mason Thomas was definitely not a Spags draft. Like, that's not a Spags guy, which it's nice. So maybe they decide to do different things. The Dave Merritt news, not great. I wonder if that affects
that's awful.
That at all. Unfortunate news there. Was arrested, a multiple-time champion as a coach for the Giants, for the Chiefs. A really good coach, but obviously bad situation there.
For day 3 pick, I will say I love the McCoy pick for the Raiders. Jerron McCoy, the faller of the draft. So my thing with that is, once you get like even the back end of the second round, the third round, the chances of getting a quality starter are really low. So you're not really like drafting franchise players, or you're not saying, oh, well, we got to get this guy that we're going to give a second contract to down the road. Like, you're just hoping that a guy's a quality starter and can, play on a rookie deal. So once a guy like that gets into, end of the second, third round, what does it matter if he might be out of the league in 3 or 4 years? Unless you think he's out of the league in a year, isn't like I'm not gonna say perfect because it's bad to say that like for the actual player, but like, isn't a good outcome drafting a guy who probably would have been cornerback 1 if he stayed healthy, could be corner 1 or 2 if he's able to be healthy for a couple years, and then he flames out, which sucks for him and the knee situation. But like, if you get 2 years of starting out of that guy and he's a top end corner and you picked him in round 3, I just don't get why the league is like so against that. I know I feel like the 49ers did this, 15 years ago. They started taking these kind of injured flyer guys in the first and second round, and they didn't really pan out. But like, I just can't imagine why you wouldn't take him in the third round when he shows that kind of potential. And no one has reported that this is a knee injury that's going to be, he can't play this year, he's not going to come back from it. It's just like, we're doubtful that if it gets hurt again, he'd be able to sustain a career. Okay, well, that's still worth a draft pick on in day 2 in the third round to get 2 to 3 years of what could be a top end corner, and maybe there's a 20% chance that he's able to play 6 or 7 years. So I love that pick for the Raiders.
It's a great point on sort of the value of those players. One thing that I think that NFL fans miss a little bit in the draft is they think that you're going to hit home runs in the later rounds every time, and you certainly do need those to win championships. We've seen that throughout the years. We saw Seattle do that, right? When the Chiefs were winning championships, they hit those later rounds. But those guys are again, like, what's the success rate of that? 5%, 10%? I mean, you just
yeah. I think once you get into the 5th round, I think it's like an 8 to 10% of like a quality starter.
Yeah.
So and that, again, a 5th rounder is probably not going to start right away. So like years, 1.5, 2, 3, and 4, you've got under 10% chance of being a quality starter. McCoy's a guy that could start for 2 years and be a high-end starter.
Correct.
At a pretty premium position, and you're waiting till the 4th round to take him. I don't know. I just don't get that. Unless, again, the medicals are just that scary that it's not even worth it. But we talk about the best assets in football being rookie contracts. Well, having a corner that's got, all pro talent on a rookie contract for, 3 years is a tremendous asset. So maybe it would have been different if he had gotten hurt in 24, played in 25, and just had this issue, but like he had shown that he can play on it for a year. Maybe that had been different for him. But again, I just, from a value perspective, I feel like he should have gone earlier.
Do you have a least favorite pick of the second day, third day, or like sort of least favorite team, what they did? Because I think there's one that pretty much stands out.
Is it Jacksonville?
No, we did them right.
I think the quarterbacks. I just so uninspired by Carson Beck and Drew Aller. So to me, those two guys, those two picks on round 3. I don't know. It's the Travis Kelce at the refs meme. Again, we talked about the Cardinals. Like, could you have found a quality interior offensive lineman at the top of the 3rd round? Pittsburgh, what does Drew Aller offer you that Will Howard and these other guys don't already offer you? Like, just keep trying to find quality players in round 3. So to me, those two quarterbacks those were the least inspiring. We already talked about the Gladstone Award.
And there is news today that Aaron Rodgers is being offered like I don't even know what the wording is for the contract by Pittsburgh, but he gets like a 10% pay raise. They the rare undrafted free agent tender.
Refusal or something?
Yeah, the rare undrafted free agent tendered Aaron Rodgers, meaning he can accept a 10% raise off last year's salary, which will pay him about $15 million this season. He only can sign with the Steelers once training camp begins. One thing that I got an argument with my radio host on the weekend about this, and he said the Drew Aller pick he quote liked because he can be developed, and my argument was mostly that when, like, the thing, Mitch, I think one myth of the sport now, in my opinion, is the idea of development. I just think it's nearly impossible at that position, especially quarterback, to develop a guy because there's less practice reps, there's less time. Like, when is Drew Aller going to be developed? He's gonna get the second team reps immediately. Is he gonna get first team? Like,
that's
when is he
the point. You also have Will Howard that needs to be developed.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
McCarthy is like known as a guy who seems to actually be pretty good at developing quarterbacks, has this whole like program and rubric thing and does a pretty good job with it. But yeah, the reps are so limited. I mean, maybe a guy like Rodgers doesn't practice quite as much and, not going to be there for OTAs, it seems. So you have some time to do it there. But if this is a 2 to 3 year project, I mean, I don't know. Is he going to be developed enough in 1 year trading reps with Will Howard to then like be a franchise guy next year? No, I'm pro quarterback. I think, like, Chiefs wise, people are like, well, why do they take Nussmeier? I'm like, okay, they took him at 249.
Yeah.
Can you tell me who pick 250 was from the Chiefs last year? No. Can you tell me who pick 248 was 2 years ago? No. So yeah, drafting quarterbacks and like having them sit and learn behind guys, like, that is valuable. But drafting an Aller or Beck in the 3rd round, or talking about bad picks, the Jets trading up, spending a couple fourths to take Klubnik in the 4th round, like, I just don't necessarily see it for guys like that. And to your point, unless you're coming in as like the definitive number 2, you're not going to get enough reps, and there's not enough time to be truly developed. And we've all seen that like preseason games are pretty meaningless from like a let's learn a playbook and apply it against the defense perspective. So I do think guys can learn. It just seems like that's a 5-year process, and that's not the goal of drafting him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I just think development's so hard now across the sport, especially that position. Like, think about quarterback. if you think about franchise quarterbacks, right, they're mostly all first round picks or mid to early second round picks, right? There's obviously Dak is an outlier in that, but remember Dak came in and had the best offensive line in football, and wasn't supposed to play, but then Romo got hurt. Brock Purdy, right, starting quarterback, that's a very rare situation to be the last pick in the draft and be that good. And the other guys that don't fit that boat, I think there's one other that's not.
Russell Wilson was. I don't know if he's still
counts as no, I'm talking about like current franchise quarterbacks. Like I think there's one other guy I think I can't name off the top of my head who's not a mid second round pick or better, who's a sort of franchise guy. And it's just this not the sport is mostly quarterbacked by those players. And so the idea that like a fourth round quarterback's going to come in and be good, it's just not what the NFL is anymore.
Yeah, I mean, even guys like Lamar or Jordan Love, like still drafted towards the end of the round. And then you've kind of got like the reclamation projects, the Darnolds, the Bakers that were, kind of seen as guys that were outcasts and did take time to develop. But yeah, it's also interesting, like they don't, right, first round, there aren't a ton of second round picks either. Like you're either good enough to go late one and get that fifth year option, or they wait until the third round.
Correct.
Because if you were good enough to be like a high second. So it's a good point. It's interesting, the quarterback development thing. You don't see it unless there are kind of extenuating circumstances. There are more quarterbacks being developed later in their career, but that's more like the flame out, find the right spot, have learned from 5 to 8 years of failure and different coaches and bouncing around, and then they finally find a good role.
All right, Mitch, any last words for our draft freak? Any football opinions on your mind today? Anything else you want to share?
I just love the draft. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I love watching it. Still get a little bit tired of kind of the consumption of it after the fact. That consensus big board idea that like we just kind of grade drafts. We grade drafts based on kind of what reaches happened and what steals happened. And if you trade down, that's a good thing. If you trade up, that's a bad thing. You can't draft the running back number 3 overall. Like these are the right ideas. They're better than just kind of the seat of our pants that we used to go off of, but it's also getting a little bit repetitive that a lot of the coverage is kind of based upon that. But yeah, it was a fun few days, and every team is really excited for all the guys they got in, and good luck to all these guys on the rookie mini camps. Can be as stressful as you make it, but it's nice to get there. It's nice to kind of get acclimated, get to your city, start meeting all the guys that are going to be your friends for the next few years. So it's a fun time, and all the scouts and all these other guys can take a little bit of a breather. They've been grinding for the last few months, and they're probably going to want to watch their favorite guys over these rookie mini camps. But after that, they're able to take a breather, enjoy some time on the back end of OTAs and into the summer. So good on all them. I mean, again, guys in football buildings that work the most and get paid the least and don't get any recognition. It's scouting staffs, it's equipment staffs, it's training staffs, and it's all the kind of people in the building that are making sure that things are operating, janitorial staffs, all those guys. So kudos to the scouting people for being on the road as long as they have, for doing all the work, and hopefully they can take a little time to themselves and get away with their families as summer comes.
How much golf you got for this week? What's on tap?
Good question. Definitely going to go to later today. It rained a lot here, and my course tends to get pretty wet and soggy. So I'll go practice a little bit today. I got round coming tomorrow. Seems like a bit better of a nanny situation, so I got some more free time in the afternoon. So,
it's hard to find a nanny. That's much harder than you think. Like you go into the process, like, it can't be that hard, and you're like, oh wow, it's difficult to find a nanny.
Yeah, I mean, Brooke is great with Scotty. She's gonna be due in less than 2 months now.
Oh yeah.
So chasing a 2-year-old, an active 2-year-old around is not the easiest thing, and I feel bad if I'm gone too long golfing. So it frees me up a little bit to see how good I can get this year.
Just pay someone so you can golf. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Are you gonna get on the Justin Rose McLaren golf set pretty soon? You gonna hop on that?
I mean, the bag's open if they want to send me a set.
Okay, I know. Play it. I know we're football players. I want to ask you about this. So, because I think it would be odd if a football player just decided to sign with a shoe company that doesn't produce NFL cleats, and all of a sudden you're wearing NFL cleats. So Justin Rose signs with McLaren, and they give him he created a new golf irons, new golf set out of nowhere. How do you just start using new clubs like that in the middle of a season when you're playing well?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's been a 2-year process. So they took a guy he worked with, I think at Hanma. He had this like Justin Rose proto set at Hanma, and he worked with one of the guys there. And then McLaren hired him. They also hired another couple kind of R&D and club maker guys. So behind the scenes, these companies tend to hire like other people in the industry who know what they're doing, and then they work with the players for a really long time. I mean, if you look at like Titleist, I think they probably got the most guys on staff, and you look at, Cam Young has these, kind of proto versions of his irons. JT has his specific version. They all get like different things done to them. There's this huge kind of buzzword term that's called turf interaction, but it's basically how the club reacts with the grass that you're playing on. And the leading edge, the grind, the sole, like the beveling of it, that's very different player to player based on how you deliver the club. And so that's usually the fine tuning of like, how does it feel through the ground? And then you get into like different elements of, I want higher flight, I want lower flight, I want more spin, I want less spin. Like this year, Rory for like a week or two went to like slightly bigger, thicker clubs, because the bigger and thicker a club is, theoretically, the more forgiveness you have when you don't hit the middle of the face. And so even a guy like Rory is like, I'm moving away from blades, I'm going to these other ones. But then the ball was turning over a little bit more because these larger clubs make it easier to draw the ball. And he didn't like that feeling. He's so used to his blades and like his specific release pattern. So once you go down the rabbit hole of golf gear, it is crazy deep. So to make this into not the longest answer of all time, Rose has been working on this for 2 years. He would not release them or put them into play if they did not meet his specific needs like, perfectly. They were built in a way that's going to fit everything he needs to see out of a club, from a look perspective when he sets it down, performance, the way it gets through the turf. I think Ian Poulter put them in the bag too. He's been tight with McLaren over the last few years, just going to F1 events. So these guys aren't dumb enough like Rose to ruin the rest of his career chasing this thing. So there's definitely been some good research and product development. I'm sure they've been through a ton of iterations of these, and so it's just like now they're ready to come to market, and now he's ready to play them. But guys are always testing clubs, and these companies come out with new drivers every year, new irons every couple years. They want to get you in them as quick as they can so that you can, be playing the things that are most relevant, so they can make money off new items. So guys are constantly kind of searching for something new, something perfect, and seems like Rose maybe found it.
Well, we are going to play golf in about a month from now. I think it's a month from now, so we're going to play golf, and so maybe we'll bring out like a camera for the podcast. We'll see. We'll film myself. I'm so bad. I haven't played a round in a year. I gotta need some practice, man. I know.
Sometimes it's better to just show up because you have no bad habits, you have no expectations. You're just like, go out there, hit balls. Let's bring a camera. Let's see how many times you just drop an extra ball and play it as yours.
I don't do that.
Bring a camera.
I definitely don't do that. I'm not good enough to do that. I definitely will just not search for a ball though. I'm not wasting my time. I will do that.
You're a big like hit a bad shot, put down another ball and hit it.
Yeah.
Like count to your score, but like you've got a lot of balls in your pockets and you take a lot of extra shots on the course.
Yeah. Like if I take a bad shot, I will take a second shot. I won't play that ball, but just like the second shot typically just makes me feel better. It's typically better. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a better shot. I don't play that ball though. I shoot a 97 if it's a good day. So it's not that important. I like having fun out there. We'll find a course to play in a couple of weeks here. I hope you guys enjoy these episodes. Please rate, review, subscribe on YouTube. It's free to do that. It really helps out this podcast. We'll be back next week talking more ball. Take care, everyone. Have a good week.